That program cost payers more than $400 million over the last 5 years. But the Fed, in a lot of cases, providers billed Medicaid for things they never did.
At 4:32 a.m. along the fog-draped California coastline, the Pacific Ocean whispered against cliffs that few had ever seen up close. 17 nautical miles offshore, beyond the reach of casual vessels and hidden beneath layers of corporate secrecy, lay a place known only in whispered rumors among federal intelligence circles. Serenity Cove, a privately owned island estate registered to humanitarian icons Amina Hassan Osman, 49, and her husband Ibrahim Khalid Rashid, 51. The world. They were luminaries, philanthropists, champions of displaced children across war-torn regions. Their foundation, Hope Horizon International, claimed to have saved more than 22,000 orphaned and refugee children over the past 8 years. They had spoken before the United Nations. They had dined with ambassadors. They had accepted awards from governors and mayors across 3 continents. But at exactly 4:32 a.m. on this cold morning, more than 200 federal agents from the FBI, DICE, and DEA's Homeland Security investigations prepared to shatter that carefully constructed image, because buried beneath years of glowing press releases and tearful donor galas, federal analysts had discovered something unspeakable. At least 3,412 children tied to Hope Horizon International's programs had vanished without a trace. No school records, no repatriation documents, no follow-up contacts, just silence. And inside encrypted financial servers seized 3 weeks earlier. During a related money laundering probe, investigators found something even darker. Shipping manifests, encrypted payment schedules, and a deadline that made even seasoned agents go cold. Operation Innocence Trade. This was not charity. This was command-level trafficking disguised as salvation. You are about to witness the largest child recovery operation ever conducted on U.S. soil. But what agents found on that island, what they heard, what they saw, and who they arrested will change the way you think about trust, power, and the people we are told to admire. If you're still reading, hit like so this story reaches those who need to see it, because what comes next is worse than you can imagine. The night air was thick with salt and tension. At 4:47 a.m., a fleet of Coast Guard interceptor boats and 2 FBI tactical watercraft cut their engines 600 m offshore from Serenity Cove. Off them, 2 MH-65 Dolphin helicopters hovered in blackout mode, rotors slicing through the fog with surgical silence. From the command vessel, FBI Special Agent Michael Torres whispered into his headset, "All units, this is Overwatch. Green light, move now." Within seconds, the island's perimeter was breached from 4 directions simultaneously. SWAT teams in night vision gear moved like shadows through dense coastal brush. The agents repelled from helicopters onto the roof of the main estate, the sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion with marble columns, infinity pools, and a helipad large enough for private jets. This was no simple residence. It was a fortress. Security cameras lined every path. Motion sensors covered the gardens. Steel reinforced doors protected the lower levels, and as federal teams advanced, they immediately encountered resistance. 3 armed security contractors opened fire from a guard tower near the eastern dock. Flashbangs erupted in blinding bursts of light. SWAT operators returned controlled suppressive fire, pushing forward with ballistic shields. Within minutes, the contractors were on their knees, wrists zip-tied, faces pressed into wet stone. But the real operation was just beginning. Inside the mansion's main wing, agents kicked through a locked mahogany door and entered what appeared to be a command center. Digital screens displayed live feeds from multiple locations. Cargo ports in Los Angeles, a logistics warehouse. In Sacramento, a private airstrip. In Nevada, and something else, a grid of small rooms numbered 1 through 60 each, containing a narrow bed and a surveillance camera. One agent froze. "Command, we've got live feeds. Multiple locations, children visible in confinement." The voice on the other end was steady but cold. "Secure the servers, lock it all down. No one touches anything until forensics arrives." As teams swept the lower floors, they discovered something that made even hardened federal agents stop in their tracks. A concealed stairwell leading 3 levels, underground, reinforced with soundproof walls and biometric access panels. The door was blown open with a tactical breaching charge. Inside, the air was stale and cold. Dim LED strips illuminated a sterile corridor lined with steel doors. Behind each door was a small room, Spartan, clinical, numbered. And in those rooms were children, dozens of them, silent, confused, some crying softly, others staring blankly at the walls. By 5:18 a.m., federal agents had secured 87 children inside the underground facility. Ages ranged from 6 to 16. None of them had identification. None of them knew where their families were. Many spoke languages the agents didn't immediately recognize. Somali, Arabic, Tigrina, Swahili. Medical teams were called in immediately. Blankets were distributed. Soft voices reassured them. You're safe now. You're safe. But the nightmare was far from over. In a locked storage vault, adjacent to the holding rooms, agents discovered metal filing cabinets containing thousands of doses. File contained a photograph, a fabricated backstory, medical records, and something chilling, a price sheet. The children had been cataloged, evaluated, categorized by age, health, language, ability, and appearance, and at the bottom of each page was a transaction code linked to offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, Cyprus, and Hong Kong. One agent, a father of 3, had to step outside. He couldn't finish reading. In a separate wing of the estate inside, a private office lined with leather-bound books and framed humanitarian awards, federal agents found Amina Hassan Osman and Ibrahim Khalid Rashid. They were not in the underground facility. They were not with the children. They were seated calmly at a conference table, shredding documents. When agents burst through the door, Amina looked up with a composed smile. There's been a terrible misunderstanding, she said smoothly, her voice practiced and polished, but the shredder kept running and the hard drives on the desk were still warm. Within minutes, both were in federal custody. No speeches, no cameras, no applause, just silence. Comment exposed if you want to see how deep this network really went, because what they found next wasn't just a crime, it was an empire. By 7:03 a.m., the island was under full federal lockdown. Forensic teams moved methodically through the estate, tagging evidence, photographing rooms, and cataloging every piece of digital infrastructure they could find. But the real revelation came when FBI cyber analysts cracked the encryption on the server seized from the underground command center. What they saw made the room go quiet. On the screen was a detailed network map, a digital web spanning continents. At the center of it all was a single operational code name, Project Mercy Corridor. It wasn't just one island, it wasn't just one foundation. It was a transnational infrastructure designed to move children across borders under the cover of humanitarian aid, refugee resettlement programs, and international adoption pipelines. The system operated through more than 40 shell companies and fake non-profit entities spread across 7 countries. Front organizations included Global Family Futures LLC, a private adoption consultancy in Nevada, Pacific Youth Outreach Network, a refugee services Ango in Washington, Bright Horizon Logistics, a shipping and cargo firm in Los Angeles, New Dawn Education Trust, a scholarship foundation in San Francisco. Each entity appeared legitimate on paper. They had tax filings, they had donor reports, they had glowing testimonials from satisfied sponsors, but every single one of them funneled children, money, and falsified documentation into the same concealed pipeline. Financial analysts traced the money flow backward. Over the past 8 years, Hope Horizon International had processed more than $680 million in donations, grants, and international aid funding. Yet only 11% of that money could be traced to actual program expenses. The rest routed through offshore accounts in the British Virgin Islands, Switzerland, and Dubai, laundered through real estate purchases, luxury vehicle leases, art acquisitions, and private equity funds that existed only on paper. One investigator described it bluntly. This wasn't charity work, it was a for-profit child export operation disguised as salvation. But the most horrifying discovery came when analysts cross-referenced flight manifests, cargo shipping logs, and travel authorizations linked to Hope Horizon's international programs. Between 2018 and 2026, the Foundation had coordinated 312 international humanitarian transport missions. On paper, these were youth exchange programs, refugee relocation, flights, and educational trips for displaced children. In reality, they were child trafficking routes operating under the protection of diplomatic immunity, humanitarian exemptions, and pre-cleared customs waivers. The routes were chillingly efficient. Children collected from refugee camps in East Africa and the Middle East, flown to staging facilities in California, Nevada, and Washington under the guise of temporary foster care, processed through fake adoption agencies or educational programs, transported via private yacht, cargo vessel, or chartered flight to wealthy clients in Asia, Europe, and the Gulf states. At every step of the way, the operation was protected by falsified legal documents, pre-approved customs clearances, and cooperative officials who asked no questions. One senior FBI investigator later said, "They didn't just exploit the system, they redesigned it. They built a second legal framework that existed in parallel to the real one. And it worked because everyone assumed that people who win awards can't be criminals. Inside one of the seized hard drives, agents found a single file labeled Phase 3 Expansion Proposal. It outlined plans to scale the network even further, partnering with additional NASAs, establishing processing hubs in Texas and Florida, and embedding operatives inside immigration review boards to streamline child movement during border surges. The target 10,000 children per year by 2028. The revenue projection $2.40 billion annually. It wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't desperation. It was industrial-scale human commodification, planned with the precision of a Fortune 500 corporations. And it had been operating in plain sight for nearly a decade. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. You're still watching. Comment go deeper, because the next phase will show you how many people knew, how many stayed silent, and how the entire system was built to look the other way. At 9:14 a.m. inside a federal operations center in downtown Los Angeles, a massive digital map filled the wall. Dozens of red markers pulsed across California, Nevada, Arizona, Washington, and Oregon. Each marker represented a location tied to Project Mercy corridor, safe houses, logistics hubs, storage facilities, private airstrips, and offshore charter services. FBI Director Rebecca Callahan stood before the map, her expression hard and focused. Behind her, more than 12,200 federal agents from the FBI, DICE, DHS, ATF, and U.S. Marshal Service stood ready. This was no longer an investigation. This was Operation Shattered Trust, the largest coordinated federal raid in modern U.S. history. Director Callahan's voice cut through the room like a blade. Every location, every suspect, every piece of evidence. We moved simultaneously. No warnings, no leaks, no second chances. At exactly 10 a.m. Pacific time, the raids began. Los Angeles Port of Long Beach Warehouse. 17 CWAT teams breached a nondescript shipping facility registered to Bright Horizon Logistics. Inside they found a fully operational child staging center, bunk beds, medical examination stations, clothing storage, and a scheduling board listing departure times. 4 maritime cargo routes to Southeast Asia. Agents seized 42 children ages 7 to 14 who had been told they were waiting for educational placement interviews. In reality, they were awaiting shipment. Also recovered $3.2 million in cash, 16 falsified passports, and encrypted communication devices linked directly to contacts in Malaysia and Thailand. Sacramento, private estate, Emerald Hills. DEA agents raided a luxury compound owned by a shell entity tied to Hope Horizon International. The estate appeared empty until agents discovered a hidden basement access through a wine cellar. Inside, 63 children confined in small sleeping quarters. Some had been there for weeks. None had seen sunlight in days. Security footage showed repeated visits by well-dressed individuals who arrived in luxury vehicles, reviewed files, and left with selected children. This wasn't a shelter, was a showroom. Nevada private airstrip, Desert Valley Regional. Agents supported by U.S. Customs and Border Protection air units descended on a remote airstrip 40 miles outside Las Vegas. 2 private jets were being prepped for departure. Passenger manifest listed youth delegates bound for Dubai and Hong Kong. Agents stopped the planes before takeoff and recovered 29 children from the aircraft cabins. Pilots and crew were immediately detained. Inside the terminal office, agents found detailed client contracts, wire transfer receipts, and delivery confirmation logs spanning 3 years. San Francisco New Dawn Education Trust headquarters. FBI cyber teams stormed a sleek downtown office building that served as the public face of one of Hope Horizon's partner organizations. Employees were mediating when agents entered. Computers were seized, phones were confiscated, filing cabinets were emptied. Inside, investigators found donor solicitation materials featuring photographs of smiling children who had never been enrolled in any program. The photos had been purchased from stock image sites or taken during staged events. The entire education trust was a front. It existed only to legitimize financial transfers and generate public credibility. Washington State, Coastal Marina, Port Townsend, Coast Guard vessels, and FBI maritime units intercepted a luxury yacht preparing to depart under cover of early morning fog. The vessel, registered under a shell company in Panama, was loaded with 38 children described in shipping documentation as humanitarian program participants. The crew attempted to resist. Gunfire was exchanged. 2 crew members were wounded. The rest surrendered. Recovered from the yacht's cargo hold 128 kilograms of methamphetamine and 2.1 million fentanyl pills packed alongside the children's luggage. The connection was undeniable. Network wasn't just moving children, was moving narcotics on the same routes, using the same cover, protected by the same false paperwork. By 2:47 p.m., the coordinated operation had concluded. Final count across All raid locations $450. Children recovered 87 suspects. Arrested 14.6 million in cash seized. 340 kilograms of narcotics intercepted. 12 private vessels and aircraft impounded. More than 6,000 falsified documents confiscated. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than it had in the last 6 years. But as investigators compiled the evidence, one question burned hotter than any other. How did this operate for so long without being stopped? The answer was about to become painfully clear. At 6:21 p.m. inside a secure FBI evidence processing facility, forensic analysts began reviewing the thousands of files, emails, and encrypted communications recovered during the raids. What they found was a betrayal that cut deeper than any crime. The network had not survived by hiding in the shadows. It had survived because it had help from the inside. Over the course of 3 years, at least 34 officials across federal, state, and local agencies had been compromised, coerced, or paid to facilitate the operation. The list was staggering. 7 immigration case officers who expedited refugee placement approvals without proper vetting. 5 port authority inspectors who waived cargo inspections during late night departure windows. 9 child protective services coordinators who falsified placement records and closed cases prematurely. 6 customs and border agents who approved travel documents for children with incomplete legal guardianship. 4 county judges who signed off on emergency custody transfers without reviewing evidence. 3 state legislators who received campaign donations from Hope Horizon linked PACs and advocacy groups. Of them had been paid, some in cash, some in luxury gifts, some in political favors, but all of them had made the same calculation. It's easier to look away than to ask questions. Internal emails revealed a disturbing pattern. When junior officers raised red flags about suspicious travel, authorizations, or irregular placement patterns, they were told to prioritize humanitarian throughput and avoid unnecessary delays in vulnerable child services. One immigration officer who refused to approve a batch of questionable documents was reassigned within 2 weeks. His replacement approved the same documents without question. A port inspector who requested secondary screening for a suspicious cargo shipment was told the request was statistically insignificant and not aligned with operational priorities. The shipment was cleared.